Despite being one of the wealthiest countries in the world, the United States is facing an increasing problem of poverty, with millions of Americans struggling to make ends meet. In this video, we will delve into the factors that contribute to this issue, from economic inequality and lack of access to education and job opportunities, to government policies and the decline of the social safety net. We will also examine the impact of poverty on individuals and families, and how it affects different communities. Will the US be able to get back to its glory days? Will Americans finally get the land they were promised? Join us as we take a closer look at how one of the richest countries is becoming increasingly poor. Before we do, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Economic inequality and the wealth gap. Economic inequality refers to the unequal distribution of wealth, income, and resources among different individuals and groups in a society. The wealth gap is a measure of this inequality and refers to the difference in wealth between the rich and the poor. In the United States, the wealth gap has been growing over the last several decades, with a significant portion of the country's wealth concentrated in the hands of a small number of individuals. According to data from the Federal Reserve, the top 1% households in the United States hold over 25% of the country's wealth, while the bottom 50% hold less than 2%. This concentration of wealth can have a profound effect on poverty, as those at the bottom of the economic ladder have less access to resources and opportunities. One of the main drivers of the wealth gap is the increasing income inequality. This is the unequal distribution of income, where a small percentage of people earn a disproportionate share of the total income. This can occur due to factors such as lack of progressive taxation, lack of unionization, and the erosion of the minimum wage. The wealth gap can also be exacerbated by government policies such as tax breaks and subsidies for the wealthy, and cuts to the social safety net programs for the poor. Additionally, economic systems like capitalism are known to be built on the principles of competition, which often lead to unequal distribution of resources as some succeed and others fail. The wealth gap can have a number of negative consequences for society, including increased social and economic stratification, reduced economic mobility, and a decline in economic growth. It can also lead to a lack of political representation for the poor and marginalized, as well as erode the sense of shared responsibility for the well-being of all members of society. Impact of COVID-19 pandemic on poverty in US. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on poverty in the United States. The pandemic has led to widespread job loss and economic instability, which has disproportionately affected low-income communities and individuals. One of the main ways in which the pandemic has affected poverty is through job loss. The pandemic has led to widespread layoffs and business closures, particularly in sectors such as retail, hospitality, and tourism. These industries employ a large number of low-wage workers, many of whom were already living paycheck to paycheck. The sudden loss of employment has left many individuals and families struggling to make ends meet. The pandemic has also highlighted and exacerbated existing economic disparities. Communities of color have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, both in terms of health outcomes and economic consequences. People of color are more likely to work in low-paying jobs that are considered essential, and are less likely to have access to paid sick leave, making it difficult for them to stay home if they are sick or exposed to the virus. COVID-19 has also led to an increase in food insecurity, as many low-income families struggle to access nutritious food. Many food banks and pantries have reported a significant increase in demand for their services, and the closure of schools has left many children without access to free or reduced price meals. The government has taken some steps to address the economic consequences of the pandemic, such as the CARES Act, which provided financial assistance to individuals and businesses. However, the assistance provided may not be enough to fully address the economic consequences of the pandemic, and many people are still struggling to make ends meet. Overall, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on poverty in the United States, and the economic consequences of the pandemic are likely to continue for some time. Efforts must be made to address the economic disparities that have been highlighted and exacerbated by the pandemic, in order to ensure a more equitable and just society. The role of minimum wage on poverty rate. The federal minimum wage in the United States has been $7.25 per hour since 2009, but many states and localities have set higher minimum wages. Some studies have shown that increasing the minimum wage can reduce poverty rates. For example, when the minimum wage is increased, low-wage workers have more money to spend, which can stimulate economic growth and reduce poverty. The minimum wage is the lowest amount of money that an employer is legally required to pay their employees for work. It's often used as a tool to combat poverty by ensuring that workers are paid a wage that is sufficient to meet their basic needs. Moreover, when the minimum wage is increased, it can have a ripple effect by raising the wages of workers who are already earning slightly more than the minimum wage. This can lead to increased spending and stronger economic growth. However, increasing the minimum wage can also have negative effects. Some businesses may be unable to afford to pay their workers more, which could lead to layoffs and reduced hours. Also, businesses may pass the cost of higher wages onto consumers in the form of higher prices. Additionally, the minimum wage may not be sufficient to lift all workers out of poverty. A worker earning the minimum wage who is the sole breadwinner for a family of 4, for example, would still be considered below the poverty line. Therefore, it's important to consider other policies such as progressive taxation, strengthening social safety net programs, and affordable housing solutions to reduce poverty rates effectively. Racial disparities in poverty. Racial disparities in poverty refer to the unequal distribution of poverty among different racial and ethnic groups. In the United States, people of color are disproportionately affected by poverty. For example, African Americans and Latinos have poverty rates that are significantly higher than the national average. One of the main reasons for racial disparities in poverty is economic inequality. People of color, particularly African Americans and Latinos, are more likely to work in low-paying jobs and have less access to educational and economic opportunities. They also face discrimination in the job market, which can make it difficult for them to advance in their careers and earn higher wages. Additionally, people of color are more likely to live in neighborhoods with limited resources and high levels of poverty. These neighborhoods often lack quality schools, healthcare facilities, and job opportunities, which make it difficult for residents to escape poverty. Another factor that contributes to racial disparities in poverty is the history of discrimination and oppression that people of color have faced in the United States. For example, discriminatory policies such as redlining and mass incarceration have had a lasting impact on communities of color, making it difficult for residents to build wealth and access economic opportunities. It's important to note that poverty also disproportionately affects women of color, as they are often paid less than men of color and have fewer job opportunities. To address racial disparities in poverty, it is important to address the underlying cause of economic inequality. This includes increasing access to educational and economic opportunities, reducing discrimination in the job market, and investing in resources for low-income communities. Additionally, policies that address the historic discrimination and oppression faced by people of color are also necessary to ensure that they have the same opportunities as everyone else. Overall, racial disparities in poverty are a significant issue in the United States, and addressing them is crucial for achieving a more equitable and just society. Government policies and the impact on poverty. Government policies play a significant role in shaping poverty rates and the well-being of low-income individuals and families. The policies and programs put in place by the government can either alleviate poverty or exacerbate it, depending on their design and implementation. One important policy that can help to reduce poverty is social welfare programs, such as food assistance, healthcare, and cash assistance. These programs provide a safety net for low-income individuals and families, ensuring that they have access to basic necessities like food and healthcare. Programs like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, and Medicaid have been shown to significantly reduce poverty and improve the well-being of low-income individuals and families. Another important policy that can help reduce poverty is progressive taxation. This type of taxation system ensures that those with higher income pay a larger percentage of their income on taxes than those with lower incomes. This can help to reduce income inequality and ensure that the government has the resources to fund social welfare programs. Additionally, policies that increase access to education and job training can help to reduce poverty. For example, policies that make higher education more affordable can help low-income individuals to acquire the skills and education they need to secure well-paying jobs. Job training programs can also help low-income individuals to gain the skills they need to enter the workforce. On the other hand, certain government policies can exacerbate poverty. For example, policies that cut social welfare programs or reduce funding for education and job training can make it more difficult for low-income individuals and families to meet their basic needs and improve their economic situation. Additionally, policies that lower taxes for the wealthy and corporations can exacerbate income inequality and lead to less resources for poverty reduction programs. Government policies play a crucial role in shaping poverty rates and the well-being of low-income individuals and families. Policies that provide a safety net for low-income individuals and families, ensure progressive taxation, and increase access to education and job training can help reduce poverty. On the other hand, policies that cut social welfare programs, reduce funding for education and job training, and lower taxes for the wealthy and corporations can exacerbate poverty. It is important to critically evaluate government policies and their potential impact on poverty and inequality. In conclusion, poverty is a significant issue in the United States, and it's becoming increasingly prevalent in a country that used to be one of the wealthiest in the world. Economic inequality and the wealth gap are major drivers of poverty, with people of color and low-income individuals and families disproportionately affected. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exacerbated poverty and economic insecurity. Additionally, the current minimum wage and government policies play a key role in poverty rate. To address poverty in the United States, it is important to address the underlying causes of economic inequality and to implement policies that provide a safety net for low-income individuals and families, increase access to education and job training, and promote progressive taxation. It's crucial that we take action to address poverty and ensure that all Americans have the opportunity to achieve economic security and prosperity. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.